They thought we were gone, wiped out. Some believed we'd killed ourselves. Others said Earth was a dead rock, soaked in radiation, a casualty of its own stupidity. But the truth? We went silent on purpose. I was only 12 when the blackout began. One day, all satellites went dark. All off-world transmissions ended. No more traffic between Mars and Luna. No more updates from the Titan colonies. Humanity, once loud and arrogant, went quiet like a predator before a strike. My name is Grant Teller. I used to be a naval cadet. Now I'm commander of a goddamn warship the size of Manhattan. And we've just surfaced. Me and the other 999,999 ships. We were never extinct. We were waiting. The silence lasted 106 years. Not one signal. Not one distress call. Not even a whisper. The Galactic Union marked us Class Z extinct and moved on. Some of them scavenged what little was left on the surface. Abandoned cities, scorched fields, oceans that seemed to sleep. They had no idea what was hiding under those waves. They should have asked why no life was allowed to scan the seafloor, why all probes mysteriously vanished near Earth. But they were arrogant. They thought we were beneath them, primitive, emotional, violent. We let them think that. I was born in one of the deep nests, pressure-stabilized facilities 20 miles beneath the Atlantic shelf. My entire childhood was training. No holidays, no parties, no sky, just simulation after simulation. From 5 years old, I could identify and dismantle enemy tech in under 90 seconds. By 10, I could pilot a cruiser through magnetic turbulence. By 16, I was given my first neural link. My father died during a stress test of the Leviathan core. I watched it on the live feed. He was vaporized inside his own armor. They told me to move on. Emotion is fuel, they said. Let it burn. And I did. I let it burn into hate, not the messy kind, the cold kind, the kind that waits. Today, the signal came. A simple message. Surface. The ocean trembled. For hours, nothing but rumble. Then it began. Millions of titanic hulls rising like beasts from the deep. Carriers longer than cities, destroyers shaped like daggers, all coated in bioreactive alloys that made them invisible to alien scans. The sky was still gray when we broke through. I stood on the bridge of NRV Omen, staring at the alien vessel above the clouds. A scout ship from the Telvanni. Cocky bastards. I could already hear their chatter over intercepted comms. Primitive activity detected, possibly weather disturbance. Negative life signs? Recommend orbital scan? Then we lit them up. 6 plasma lances tore through their hull before their AI even realized it was under attack. The last thing their pilot saw was Earth's surface turning black with war machines. We sent no message, no explanation. We just fired. Some say we became monsters to beat monsters. Maybe they're right. The galaxy never gave us a chance. Not after the Mars massacre, not after the treaties they broke, not after turning half our colonies into slave farms for their biofactories. We tried peace. We begged for it. They gave us blood in return. So we gave them silence. And now, we'll give them extinction. Each ship rising from the ocean was born in pain, funded by the lives of those who never made it underground. Our billion dead didn't vanish. They became our reason to kill. We've got fleets inside trenches, submarines that feed off volcanic heat, drones that mimic sea life until it's too late. We own the oceans, the earth, and now we're coming for the stars. The Omen shook slightly as we entered full thrust. Above us, the orbital net lit up with incoming signatures, alien fleets, dozens of them, warping into our skies like gods coming to punish the ungrateful. But this time, Earth isn't the one being punished. This time, we're the executioners. And we've been waiting. The skies over Earth had turned black, not from clouds or ash, but from the shadow of ships. The Telvanni scout vessel we'd vaporized was just the beginning. 22 minutes later, orbital sensors reported 3 full fleets warping in from different vectors. They didn't even hesitate. No negotiations, no parley. They came in hot. And we were ready. They never knew the oceans of Earth were hollowed out. Beneath the crust, subterranean docks that stretched for thousands of miles. Oceans sat on top of entire civilizations built for war. And no one ever thought to check. They looked to the stars and forgot what hid below their feet. The sky lit up with the first barrage. Dozens of plasma beams screamed from the orbital rings, cutting through the first wave of Telvanni cruisers. Their shield signatures flickered, then vanished. Explosions tore their ships apart like dry leaves in a storm. I stood on the command deck of the Omen, hands locked behind my back, eyes fixed on the chaos above. My second-in-command, Ridger, called out coordinates like a machine. Enemy dreadnought targeting polar nexus, returning fire. 78% chance of kill. Fire everything, I said. Make them regret showing their faces. He didn't ask for clarification. He just obeyed. That's the kind of loyalty you get when your soldiers were raised underground, drinking mineral runoff and eating protein paste laced with memory implants. We weren't trained to fight. We were built to, and the galaxy had no idea. The Telvanni weren't even the worst of them. They were scavengers, opportunistic insects that preyed on fallen worlds. But behind them, I knew what was coming. The Vandrix Dominion, and the Zoral Theocracy. Real threats, the ones who had orchestrated humanity's fall a century ago. I remembered the stories. How the Vandrix slaughtered the terraforming engineers on Europa. How they used neural dampeners to turn entire families into husks before melting the ice bases to bury them alive. My uncle was one of them. The Theocracy was worse. They didn't kill for power. They killed for purification. Any species that didn't align with their frequency of harmony was systematically eliminated, children included. And we remembered every death. They thought Earth's silence was surrender. What it really was calculation. The oceans hid our minds as much as our machines. No transmissions, no leaks, no arrogance. We became ghosts. My generation grew up with only one purpose: to avenge the old world. Admiral, multiple warp signatures. Sector 12B. Vandrix ID confirmed, Ridger called out. Here it was. Full spread, I said calmly. Tell Krakens to breach. Let's give them something to scream about. Under the surface, the Krakens moved. Not creatures, ships. Submersible stealth platforms, shaped like predators of the deep, coated with sonar-canceling materials, each the size of a skyscraper. They weren't just war machines. They were nightmares designed to move through the seas silently, then erupt skyward through any surface. We watched on radar as 9 Krakens punched through the surface of the Indian Ocean, clearing 20,000 feet in seconds. From there, they launched missiles laced with blacklight tech, anti-psychic weaponry developed from what the Vandrix used against us long ago. The impact was immediate. The Vandrix dreadnought's shielding collapsed like wet paper. Internal detonations followed. One of their escort cruisers split down the middle, metal folding like origami as fires tore through its decks. Their response was disorganized, like they couldn't believe what they were seeing. They weren't used to Earth fighting back. I watched the radar, but my mind drifted. Back to my first assignment in the deep nest. I'd been 16. Still green. I was stationed at Dock Ceta 7, overseeing repairs to our drone fleet when a power core malfunctioned. 6 technicians were locked inside when it blew. I watched them die on monitors, faces melting through visors as heat scorched the chamber. I asked my CO why no one tried to open the doors. He said, "Because they're already dead. Grieve later. Fix the drones." So I fixed the drones. That's what Earth had become. Not emotional, Not impulsive, just cold, focused, efficient. That's how you kill gods. Admiral, Ridger's voice snapped me out of it. Zoral ships have entered Earth's gravity well, 12 at least. Triad-class warbringers. I felt a vein in my temple twitch. Here they came. The Zoral weren't loud like the Vandrix. They didn't scream or roar. They glided. Their ships looked like obsidian knives wrapped in energy halos, moving in perfect formation, like dancers. They thought they were above us, enlightened murderers, and we were about to humble them. "Bring the Leviathans online," I ordered. "No warnings." Ridger hesitated. "Sir, they haven't been tested since—" "I don't care." He nodded once, then keyed the sequence. Below the oceans. In reinforced caverns carved with fusion torches, the Leviathans waited. Not ships, not really. More like living cities, powered by ancient singularities and controlled by quantum neural networks modeled after dead human generals. There were only 3 Leviathans, but 3 was all we needed. When Leviathan 01, Ragnarok surfaced off the coast of Greenland, the tides shifted by 3 meters. Entire islands trembled. The magnetic field in the surrounding area warped, frying local fauna sensors for miles. The Zoral ships didn't react in time. The Ragnarok released a single pulse, not a beam, not a missile, just a vibration, an artificial resonance designed to dismantle ships at the atomic level. 2 Zoral warbringers turned to dust in an instant. The third tried to warp out. It didn't make it. Our gravity traps ripped it back down, and Leviathan 02, Crucible sliced it in half with a kinetic blade traveling at Mach 60. 4 down, Ridger said. 8 more to go, I replied. But we weren't without loss. Over southern Africa, an orbital defense ring failed to deploy in time. Vandrix shock troops landed and began ground assaults. Civilians, those few who lived near the surface, were caught in the crossfire. We saw it on feeds, burned homes, children running, screams. One of my pilots, Marn, broke protocol, took his fighter and strafed the enemy column, saving a cluster of survivors. He disobeyed orders. I gave him a medal. Then I grounded him. There's no room for heroes in this war, only weapons. We fought for 6 hours straight, 3 fleets, over 1,000 enemy vessels, and by the time our orbital scramblers deactivated and the smoke cleared, Earth was still standing, bloodied, but standing. Above the clouds, debris floated like a belt of shattered bones. Telvanni metal, Vandrix hulls, Zoral shards. It was beautiful, in a violent, tragic way, a graveyard of arrogance. I leaned on the railing of the observation deck, staring at it all. "We're not done," Ridger said, stepping beside me. "No," I replied. "This was just the first knock on the door." And he was right. The galaxy didn't operate on mercy. There would be more, bigger, meaner. The full force of every empire we'd embarrassed would come down on us like a hammer. That was the plan. Humanity wasn't trying to survive. We were baiting them. Because while they focused on Earth, they didn't know what we'd left on Titan, or Ganymede, or that the Martian catacombs still held 7 vault arcs filled with dormant AI war mines. They didn't know our minds had evolved past flesh, past weakness. Some of us weren't even alive anymore, not in the biological sense. I'd seen men upload themselves into ships. They spoke in frequencies now, controlled fleets with thoughts, dreamed in pulses of light. Humanity didn't go extinct. We ascended into something monstrous, and now the galaxy would feel it. Down in the war chambers, we received an encoded transmission, not from Earth, from deep space. Signal ID, Aries Black. It was from Commander Valter, one of the last off-world humans we had in the old days. He'd gone dark 93 years ago during the siege of Kepler 22b. We thought he was dead. But now his message played back on a secure loop. If you're hearing this, the galaxy isn't ready. You've built your weapons. Good. But they're coming. Not Vandrix, not Zoral. Something worse. I saw them. I followed them past the Ort line. They don't speak. They don't invade. They consume, hide nothing, use everything, burn the stars before they burn us. This is not a war. It's extinction, and we start it first. I stared at the message for a long time. If Valter was alive, and he'd seen something darker than the Dominion, then what we faced next wasn't revenge. It was survival. The million ships under Earth's oceans had just become Phase 1. Phase 2. Take the war to them. We thought we were prepared. We weren't. Not for what came next. After the first wave fell, Telvanni, Vandrix, Zoral, we expected retaliation. What we didn't expect was silence. Not peace. Not a ceasefire. Just a kind of waiting. We picked up no warp trails, no new fleets, no signals, only wreckage, drifting in the black and static where there should have been fury. It was too quiet. That made me nervous, because predators don't howl when they're hunting. They stalk. They breathe behind your neck. They let you feel safe, just long enough to bury their fangs deep. And I could feel breath on Earth's neck. We had 3 days to breathe before things shifted again. In that time, we collected data. We pulled black boxes from the wrecked Telvanni fleet, extracted memory cores from Zoral wreckage, even captured a live Vandrix pilot. Not that he was much use. Bit off his own tongue the second we tried to extract memories. Coward. Still, the clues were there. Something was wrong on the galactic front. The Telvanni had rerouted their entire main fleet. Not to Earth, but away from it, days before they attacked. The Zoral had only sent 1/10 of their warbringers. That wasn't a punishment force. It was a test run. We weren't the only ones hiding something. And it was Valter's message that haunted me most. Something past the Ort line. Something that consumes. He'd never sounded scared when I knew him. Reckless, sure. Arrogant even. But not afraid. That recording? That man was shaking inside. I sat alone in the Leviathan core chamber, staring at the feed of deep space. The Leviathan minds, fragmented AIs modeled on the memories of Earth's greatest war generals, whispered to me through the neural link. I didn't trust them. They were tools, not friends. Useful, but dangerous. Each one was capable of thinking faster than any living brain, with the cold logic of the dead. You hesitate, said Leviathan's O2, Crucible. I didn't answer. There is no hesitation in survival, only action. Delay is death. I finally spoke. What would you do? Burn the sky, shatter the quiet, strike first and ask nothing. That is the way of the last survivor. That was the difference between us. I remembered being human. These things? They remembered only war, but I couldn't ignore them. They weren't wrong. By the 4th day, the solar scanner net picked something up. It was subtle, a distortion. Movement beyond the outer system, past Pluto's orbit, but it wasn't a ship, not a fleet. It was space bending, folding in on itself, ripples, like gravity was being pulled backward. I called a full command briefing. The other admirals, Kasric from the Pacific Tier, Renner from the Europa Vault, and my old rival Commander Sten from the Martian Remnants, joined via quantum link. They all stared at the data. What the hell are we looking at? Kasric grunted, blunt as always. Not warp signatures, Renner said, her voice tight. This isn't anything on record. It's not a who, I said quietly. It's a what? I loaded Valter's old message again. Let them hear it. Their silence afterward said enough. Then Sten spoke. We need to hit it first. Hit what? Renner snapped. You want to throw our entire fleet at a gravity distortion we don't understand? We didn't understand the Vandrix either, he shot back. And now they're scrap. Fear is a luxury. So is hesitation. You suggesting suicide? Kasric asked. I'm suggesting we stop waiting like prey." They started arguing. I disconnected the feed. I returned to the Omen. My ship, my war, my command. I walked the steel corridors alone, passing crewmen who saluted me like I was a ghost. That's what command does. It carves you out, leaves something hollow behind your ribs. I hadn't slept in 48 hours. I didn't want to. The dreams were worse than reality. Sometimes I saw my father, trapped in the fire chamber again. Sometimes I saw Earth, not burning, but bleeding, like it was alive, and dying. I found myself at the launch bay, staring at one of our deep space shuttles. Small, fast, silent. It gave me an idea. I didn't ask for permission. I just left. I took a stealth craft, jumped past Neptune's edge, and dove into the black. I left Ridger in command of the Omen. I told him if I didn't return in 24 hours to assume I was dead and launch Phase 2. He didn't like it. He didn't argue either. That's what I loved about him. Out there, past the light, space feels different. You can hear the silence. You can taste it. The distortion zone pulsed in the dark like a heartbeat. No color, no heat, just a void that felt wrong. I activated the probe array, sent a dozen nanodrones ahead. They vanished. No explosion, no trace, no feedback, just gone. Then something answered. Not in words, in images. My neural link flickered. I saw flashes. Visions not from Earth, not from me. Giant shapes, machines, no creatures, with black skin and lightless eyes. Worlds cracked in their wake, planets hollowed like eggs. A voice, not sound, thought. We have watched, we have fed. Now you awaken, so we will consume. I screamed. I don't know why. I wasn't afraid of aliens. I wasn't afraid of death. But this wasn't either. This was worse. It was hunger. Galactic hunger. Cold and pure. I broke the neural link, shoved the ship into emergency warp, and left half the engines behind me. The void chased me. I don't mean the creatures, I mean the nothing. The silence itself stretched after my ship, tried to eat the space I moved through. It didn't want witnesses. I got out. Barely. I returned to Earth, bruised, dizzy, shaken in a way I'd never felt before. The engineers ran diagnostics. The neural readings were off the charts. My brain had been scanned, invaded, manipulated. But it didn't matter. I had seen the truth. The Telvanni didn't come to punish us. They came to see if we were still here, to check if Earth was rising again. Because whatever I saw out there, they saw it first. And now they were running. I called an emergency command across all sectors. 12 admirals, 50 fleet captains, 2 Leviathan mines. We met under the Atlantic in Vault Command Aura 1. I saw them, I said. Who? Sten asked. I don't know. They didn't give a name. I loaded the neural data. Let them feel it. Kasrik dropped his glass. Renner went pale. Even the Leviathan minds paused, calculating what they'd just experienced. They don't attack, I said. They arrive. They erase. They don't conquer. They devour. They're older than the empires, deeper than warp space, and they're coming. The room was silent. Then Renner said it. Then we don't wait. We take the fight out there. Kasrik nodded. They want to feed? Let's choke them. Sten grinned. Phase 2. Phase 2 wasn't defense. It was rage. We activated the arcs. 7 vault ships buried under Mars, the Moon, Titan, Europa. Each one carried quantum-forged AI war mines, sleeper weapons with only one purpose, to eliminate threats that risked all of existence. We sent word to the last scattered colonies. Return, or be erased in the crossfire. We weren't uniting humanity. We were unleashing it. On the 6th day, the first rift opened. Outside Saturn's rings, not a ship, not even a fleet, a hole. From inside, something stepped through, long, thin, twisting like wire and bone and screams. It had no name, but I named it anyway. Extinction. And I smiled. Because now? Now Earth gets to answer. It stepped through the rift like it owned the stars. A creature, if you could even call it that, formed from pieces of dark and nightmare. Spindled limbs that moved without weight, joints that bent the wrong way, skin like liquefied obsidian with veins of red static underneath. And where its face should have been, only teeth, rows and rows, spiraling, shifting. Its very presence disrupted space around it. Satellites glitched, sensors screamed, and every synthetic AI near Saturn's orbit spontaneously corrupted. One of our outer colonies, Station Aries 9, simply vanished. No explosion, no trace, just gone. We knew this thing was only a scout, and scouts meant more. I stood inside the central command deck of the Omen, surrounded by quiet dread. No one spoke unless they had to. No shouting, no panic, just tension, the kind that hums in your bones and makes your skin itch. "Update on Aries 9? I asked, knowing full well there wouldn't be one. Ridger just shook his head. "Gone. No warp trails, no debris. It's like the coordinates were erased from space itself." "It was a test," I said, "to see how fast we'd react. Or how scared we'd get." I looked at him. "Are we scared?" "Not yet," he said. I nodded. "Then let's show them why we buried 1 million ships beneath the sea." Phase 2 wasn't just a military response. It was a reset, a transformation of Earth from isolated fortress to apex predator. We mobilized everything. The moon vaults opened. Hundreds of sleeper drones launched, spreading across the system. Hidden shipyards on Europa and Callisto came online, pushing out cruisers by the hour. Plasma forges deep inside Mars ignited for the first time in decades, bringing online an arsenal not seen since the early collapse. Even old enemies among our own kind were reactivated. AI clusters like Prometheus and Vector, considered too unstable to trust during peace, now deployed without hesitation. We weren't playing defense anymore. This was extinction warfare. The creature near Saturn didn't attack again. It just lingered, circling, scanning, pulsing with energy that even our top minds couldn't explain. We sent a fleet to intercept. 30 ships. It dismembered them in under 90 seconds. No weapons fired. It didn't need to. It tore them apart through space manipulation, bent gravity, shredded hulls from the inside, froze neural links mid-thought. We lost over 900 souls, and still no retaliation, just floating, watching, like it was waiting for permission. That was when I received the message. From Valter. Not a recording. A real transmission, encrypted, raw, jagged with static and pain. They are called the null. They do not conquer. They unmake. They arrive in threes, the harvester, the voice, and the maw. You've seen the harvester. The maw follows next. You cannot hide. You cannot run. But you can kill. I have something. Meet me at Kepler 62F. No delays. Bring war. Valter was alive. And if even half of what he said was true, this enemy wasn't just new. It was a cosmic cleaning crew. And Earth was next on the list. I stood before my officers, the weight of our entire species pressing down on my shoulders. "We've done what no species in the galaxy believed possible," I began. "We built a fleet in silence. We rose from nothing. We destroyed empires that mocked us, but that was just survival." I paused, met their eyes. "Now it's war, and not with Vandrix or Zoral or Telvanni, with the null." I tapped the console, brought up Valter's message. "We deploy to Kepler 62F. Valtor claims he has intel. We're going to get it. We take 3 fleets. Omen leads the charge. The rest form a jump perimeter and wait for the signal. If we die out there, make sure what kills us doesn't make it back." No one spoke. Then Ridger stepped forward. "You heard the Admiral. Prep for burn. No mercy." And just like that, humanity reached out from its cradle, clenched its fist, and prepared to punch the dark. We warped out 6 hours later. 3 fleets. Over 2,000 ships. The largest human armada ever assembled since the fall. The Omen led the vanguard, riding the slipstream like a blade through water. I was wired into the nav link, nerves connected to every sensor, my mind split across 1,000 data points. I could feel the tension of the crew. Not fear. Purpose. Humans weren't running anymore. We were hunting. Kepler 62F was dead. A barren rock floating in the habitable zone of its star, once home to a thriving colony built by pre-blackout humans. We expected ruins. We found glass. The entire planet had been vitrified. A crust of scorched crystal stretched across the surface, not from heat, from something worse, a forced molecular rearrangement. The planet had been converted into a warning. In the center, a single tower stood. Black, seamless, unscannable. Valtor was there. He looked older, more machine than man. One side of his face was replaced with alloy. His right arm glowed faintly with reactor lines, but his eyes were still human, still full of hate. "You made it," he said. "Good. What the hell did this?" He didn't waste time. He turned, opened the vault, and led me down. Inside, buried under the black tower, was a prison. And inside that, a creature, small, bound, eyes like hollow suns. "It's one of them," Valtor said. "The voice." I drew my weapon. "You captured a null?" "I didn't," he said. "The Telvanni did, and they paid for it." The creature opened its mouth, not to speak, but to echo. My mind split open. I saw 1,000 galaxies dying at once. I saw entire star systems fold like paper and drift into nothing. Then silence, and a voice inside my skull. "You are wrong to fight. There is no survival. There is only cleansing. You are mold. We are flame." I staggered back. Valtor shut the cell. "That's what we're dealing with," he said. "They don't need ships. They don't need strategy. They unmake meaning. They turn defiance into dust. And what the hell do we do against that?" He handed me a core. It pulsed like a dying heart. "This is a fragment of their source," he said, "reverse-engineered from their technology. Dangerous, unstable, but it can hurt them." I stared at it, felt the heat of it pulse in my hand. "What does it do?" "It collapses their logic field," he said. "Reminds them what pain feels like." "Is that enough?" "No," he said, "but it's a start." We returned to the fleet. I gave the order. "We're going to strike. First target, the Rift node near Saturn." Operation name, Ash Rain. Goal, kill the Harvester. Bury the Rift. Leave a message. The fleet jumped back into the solar system like a tidal wave. Omen at the front, the Leviathans behind us, armed with experimental quantum torpedoes. We didn't fire warnings. We opened the war. Rift node engaged. The Harvester turned to meet us. That towering, bone-thin nightmare. We launched everything. Light, metal, radiation, AI-guided smart rounds, kinetic spears, plasma lances. The Leviathan core pulsed so hard the oceans on Earth trembled. Mars lost its gravity stabilization for 5 seconds, and for the first time, the Harvester screamed. It didn't die. Not yet. But it bled. Thick void matter spilled into space, turning Saturn's rings black. It shrieked without sound, retreating into the rift. The tear shuddered, destabilized. Then, we deployed Valtor's core. A suicide drone flew in, carrying the unstable tech straight into the heart of the rift. We watched it pulse. Then explode. Light warped. Reality twisted. Half our ships blacked out. But when we came back online, the rift was gone. No trace, no harvester, only stars. We lost 93 ships, thousands of lives, but for the first time in recorded galactic history, a null had retreated. We didn't win. Not yet. But we proved one thing. Humanity can't be erased. We fight too dirty. We love too hard. We refuse to kneel, and we build fleets beneath the ocean while the galaxy sleeps. We thought the Harvester was their worst. We were wrong. What came next wasn't just an answer. It was a punishment, the Maw. We never even saw it arrive. It didn't step through a rift. It didn't announce itself in the sky. It simply was. One moment, our solar system was clear. The next, Neptune was gone. Not destroyed. Gone. No explosion. No debris. Just a black, gaping hole where a gas giant had been, like someone had erased a line of code from a simulation. And when we pointed our long-range scopes, we saw the edge of the void creeping toward Uranus. The Maw had arrived. I remember the silence in command when the readings came in. I was in orbit over Mars, mid-briefing with Admiral Renner and Kasric. Both of them froze. Not from fear. We were too far gone for that now. But disbelief. "How does a planet just disappear?" Renner muttered, looking at the hollow space where Neptune should have been. No energy spike, no tachyon surge, nothing. "It's like it was never there," Kasric said. "It was the Maw," I said. They both turned to me. "That's what Valter said, right?" I continued. "The Harvester comes first, then the voice, then the Maw." Kasric clenched his jaw. "So what does it do? If the Harvester kills and the voice speaks?" "It ends," I said. "The Maw ends." And that's when I realized. This wasn't war. This was removal. We weren't enemies to them. We were errors, lines of messy, inefficient code in a universe that had to be debugged. They were fixing it, and Earth was next in line. We had no plan for the Maw. Hell, we barely had a word to describe it. No defined structure. No targetable heat signature. It existed in a way that bent physics, warped perception. Every ship that tried to approach it, drones, satellites, even manned scouts, lost contact before reaching visual range. And those who came back weren't right. One of our long-range fighter pilots, Commander Lorne, returned with blood pouring from his eyes and ears, screaming about teeth and mouths in the sky. He shot himself before we could sedate him. His last words? "It's not a thing. It's a mouth. And it's always been open." We ordered all civilian habitats to evacuate the outer system. Mars, Luna, Ganymede, all moved to fallback positions behind Earth's orbit. We reactivated the old shield grid over the Pacific Ring, launched every last Leviathan-class dreadnought, and initiated Phase 3, Operation Cinderfall. Target, stop the Maw, or die trying. I didn't give a speech this time. I just told my crew to strap in, charge the core, and aim for the center of the black. Omen launched first. Our orders: probe the edge of the Maw's field, gather data, and find a weakness. We barely made it 30 minutes before hell broke loose. It started with whispers, not over the comms, inside our heads. Echoes of old screams, laughter that wasn't ours. I saw my father on the bridge, saw him burn again, heard him scream my name just like that day in the deep nest. But it wasn't him, it was it. The Maw spoke through memory. Then the crew started bleeding. Slow at first. Noses, ears, then eyes. Half of Deck 6 blacked out. No energy surge, just absence. We retreated, barely. When we made it back to the safe zone, we counted 19 dead. All brain failure, no enemy fire, no hull breaches, just a message, delivered through pain. You do not belong. We regrouped with Leviathan 01 Ragnarok and began retooling our approach. We couldn't fight this thing with guns, so we built screams, Neural disruption bombs, designed to fry every sensory processor within a 5,000-kilometer radius. Blacklight charges, psychic dampeners, echo rift generators, all theoretical weapons we'd shelved because they were inhumane. The Maw didn't fall under any of our rules, so neither did we. Phase 3 launched with 4,000 ships, all of Earth's fury. Riding into the black, weapons primed, minds already breaking. As we neared the edge of the anomaly, time itself distorted. Some pilots reported seeing their own ships ahead of them, like reflections. Others aged 5 years during approach. 2 vessels simply melted mid-flight. No heat, just molecular deconstruction. But we pressed forward, because we had no other choice. We found the edge. It wasn't a border in the usual sense. It was a thinning, a place where space stretched, like rubber before it tears. And beyond it, the Maw. We still couldn't see it, but we felt it, a pressure in the skull, a pulling in the gut, like something inside us was being sucked away, molecule by molecule. I turned to Ridger. Launch the screamers. He didn't hesitate. 50 neural bombs fired forward, each spinning through the void, broadcasting frequencies designed to disrupt psionic channels. The blast rippled through the void. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Maw roared. We didn't hear it with ears, we felt it with bones. A low, grinding growl, like continents cracking under the ocean. The void shimmered, then split, revealing a glimpse inside. Teeth, not literal teeth, not physical ones, but ideas of teeth, biting into existence, shaping it. The Maw was alive, not as a body, but as a concept. It didn't live the way we did. It existed as hunger, and now it was looking at us. We fired everything: torpedoes, plasma spears, rift charges. The Leviathans released black matter into the wound, tearing at the structure, and for a moment we saw it bleed. It recoiled, screeched, twisted. We hit it again, harder. And that was when we saw something new. A face, not human, not alien, just awareness, watching, disappointed, the voice of the null. It had followed us, or maybe it had always been here. You build, we erase, you scream, we consume. Then the void folded inward. The Maw surged forward and started eating our fleet. It wasn't a battle, it was a harvest. One ship, Valor's Edge, disappeared in a blink. Another, Strider 5, twisted into a spiral of flesh and steel, its crew still alive and screaming as they melted into the walls. We tried to run, but even retreat was war. The Omen took 3 hits of spatial distortion, hull breaches on levels 2 through 9. Ridger lost his arm. I lost half my command team. The AI screamed warnings I couldn't process. My neural link burned so hot I passed out. When I came to, we were drifting. The Maw was gone. So was half our fleet. Back on Earth, the mood shifted. Victory no longer felt possible. Only survival. But I wasn't done. We weren't done. Because when I closed my eyes, I saw something in the Maw. Not just hunger, not just destruction. Structure, a system, meaning. That meant it could be broken. Valter returned with a plan. A desperate one. Inside the null's frequency field, he discovered echoes, fragments of dying languages. Old galactic species, long thought extinct. They spoke as they were erased, which meant the null remembered, which meant they could forget. We're going to break their memory, he said. How? I asked. With something they can't process. What? Humanity. The plan is simple and suicidal. We build a pulse bomb, not energy-based, memory-based. We inject it with the DNA of every war Earth has ever fought. The screams, the betrayals, the fire, the hate, the guilt. We let the null feel what it's like to be us, and then we detonate it in their mind. The operation is called Requiem Burn, the final card in Earth's deck. And I'm going to be the one to fly it into the heart of the maw. If I die doing it, good. Let the galaxy remember, you don't erase Earth. You bleed for trying. I've seen ships detonate, cities fall, bodies torn open in vacuum. I've seen people die in fire, ice, and silence. But I've never seen anything like what happened to Neptune. The maw didn't attack it. It didn't fire on it or aim anything. It simply opened, and Neptune ceased to exist. No explosion, no debris. One moment, a swirling blue gas giant filled the scopes. Next, nothing but a perfect black wound in space, devouring the light around it like it never belonged there to begin with. That's how the maw announces itself. No scream, just erasure. The command room on the Omen was so silent you could hear every breath. I watched the live data scroll across the displays, felt the tremble in the ship's spine as we processed what just happened. Neptune. Gone. Entire outposts, 3 colonies, 45,000 lives, gone in a blink. I need confirmation, I said, though I already knew. Confirmed, Ridger said, his voice barely above a whisper. Neptune is deleted. That's the word he used, not destroyed. Deleted. Like someone pressed backspace on a goddamn planet. The bridge went quiet again. I leaned forward, resting my hands on the rail, and exhaled through clenched teeth. My bones felt heavy, my nerves cold. So this was the maw. We'd made the mistake of thinking the harvester was the real weapon. It was a killer, yes, but it still followed rules. It bled when struck. It screamed when wounded. This didn't scream. It didn't retaliate. It didn't engage. The maw simply was. A black absence of meaning, where anything that entered it simply stopped being. We had no war plan for this, no tactics, no strategy, just instinct. Survive. Orders came through in waves across the human defense network. DEFCON Omega, full system lockdown, civilian evacuation to Earth's core bunkers, total war asset mobilization. It wasn't protocol anymore. It was instinct. All of humanity's last breath funneled into one desperate defense. Weapons that had never left the labs were pushed into combat. AI protocols once deemed too dangerous were authorized. I saw blueprints flying across my command deck for psychic disruptors, memory bombs, neurofracture grenades. Tools not meant for war. Tools meant for existential collapse. Because that's what we were facing now. Not a battle, an unraveling. We didn't waste time. Command gathered every admiral still breathing, and I was put in charge of Phase 3. Ash Rain. The goal wasn't victory. It was interruption. We weren't trying to kill the maw. We just needed it to look at us. Long enough to slip in a weapon, a scream, a blade, something. It was suicide. I volunteered. Because if anyone was going to fly headfirst into the jaws of extinction, it damn sure better be me. The maw drifted toward Uranus next. Not quickly. Slowly. Like a storm rolling over a dead ocean. Every satellite we had near it failed. Signals choked into static. The gravitational fields around the maw warped time and space itself. Clocks slowed, quantum links desynchronized. And some observers reported seeing their own ships reflected in the blackness ahead. The maw wasn't a thing. It was a mouth. Endless, patient, starving. We launched everything we had. Over 4,000 ships. Every Leviathan, every mobile cannon platform. Blacklight torpedoes, Matterfold lances, gravity spears. We threw the entire solar war doctrine at it. It did nothing. Our weapons reached the edge of the field and vanished. No feedback, no detonation. Just gone. It was like firing into a dream, a nightmare that refused to end. The maw didn't strike back. It just crept forward, as if Earth was already dead and didn't know it yet. We tried psychic warfare next. Project Haugs, a device powered by the neural memories of over 1 billion human deaths. Screams, pain, final moments, regret. It was launched like a virus, wrapped in compressed data, designed to overwhelm any thought-based entity with raw emotion. We fired it straight into the edge of the Maw's event veil, and for a moment, just a moment, the black rippled, a tremor, then silence. I thought we'd finally touched something. Then Aries disappeared. Not just the station, the moon, the crew, the mineral core. Erased. As punishment or as payment, I don't know. We were bleeding for every strike, every push, and Earth was running out of blood. Valter sent word from the fringe. He'd found something. A null shrine. Buried in the hollow space between galaxies. A relic, ancient beyond age, that pulsed with something unlike anything we'd seen. "Meet me at the cradle," his message read. "It's where they first tasted." We jumped 3 days later, the Omen leading a strike recon. The cradle wasn't a planet. It was a void bubble floating inside a gravity well anomaly. A sphere the size of Earth, but inverted. Built from black material that absorbed both energy and time. And inside, the dead. Millions. Preserved. Human, Vandrix, Zoral, and other races I didn't recognize. Bodies floating, eyes wide, frozen in whatever moment the null had harvested them. It wasn't a shrine. It was a pantry. Valter stood on the inner ring, staring into the core. "This is what they feed on," he said. "Memory, meaning, pattern." He turned to me. "We've been thinking wrong. They don't erase matter. They erase context, the story of a thing, the shape of what it meant. Once you forget something exists, it ceases to exist in their reality." I frowned. "So we beat them by remembering?" He shook his head. "No, we beat them by becoming unforgettable." He handed me the key. A data echo bomb called Requiem, filled with every scream, betrayal, sin, and sacrifice from human history. Raw emotion compressed into a singularity of memory. "It won't kill them," he said, "but it'll poison their silence." "And who carries it?" I asked. He looked me in the eye. "You." So here I am, back aboard the Omen, standing alone in the launch bay, staring at the device in my hand. It's small, doesn't look like a warhead, more like an old music player, but I can feel it humming. Every death, every cry for help, every broken heart in our history, our rage, our humanity, our refusal to be forgotten. My crew watches me in silence as I step into the single-man stealth pod. Ridger walks up to me, one arm in a sling, one eye covered in gauze. He doesn't try to stop me. He just says, "Make it hurt." I smile. I plan to. As the pod seals, I feel the old tremble in my bones. The same fear I felt as a boy watching my father die in that molten lab. The same fear I buried under blood and orders and war. This isn't for revenge, it's for memory. If I make it into the maw, if I deliver this scream straight into its heart, then humanity will be remembered. Even if I'm not. Engines engage, stars stretch, and I head straight into the black, toward the mouth, toward the end. No engines, no lights. Just the faint, pulsing hum of the memory bomb in my lap. Requiem. The device holding the totality of human suffering, compressed into data so raw it nearly fried the AI that encoded it. They say if you tried to hear it, it would tear your brain apart. I don't plan to listen. I plan to deliver. The nav reads empty. The sensors have been dead since the jump. All I can do now is steer blind, drifting toward the one place every sane being in the galaxy avoids. The maw. I feel it before I see it. A pressure in my spine, a weight in my chest, like gravity forgetting which way it's supposed to pull. My vision flickers even though my eyes are closed. Flashes of my past. The good, the bad, the unbearable. I see my father screaming again. I see the girl I left behind in the Pacific Nest. I see every soldier I gave orders to die. Their faces don't fade. They stay. The maw is inside me already. The ship begins to tremble. It's not vibration, it's thought. Like reality is unsure if it should let me pass. Around me, the void isn't black, it's absence. The walls of the pod bend inward, then stretch, then blur into something like breath. Time stops being linear. My pulse sounds like a ticking clock, then a scream, then a heartbeat that isn't mine. And then, I pass through. If you're expecting hellfire or chaos, you're wrong. The inside of the maw is quiet. Too quiet. So quiet that I can hear my own childhood laughter echoing faintly in the distance. The inside is white, not black, colorless in a way that makes you ache. Like the universe was unpainted. There's no horizon, no up or down, only drifting moments. And in every direction, I see them. Ghosts. Millions. Floating in silence. Some are curled in fetal positions, others reaching out with frozen mouths open, as if in mid-scream. Human. Zoral. Vandrix. Telvanni. Even species I've never seen. All of them suspended, stripped of sound, context, and meaning. The maw didn't kill them. It stole the idea of them. My pod drifts deeper. The further I go, the more real my memories feel. I see Ridger's face beside me. I hear the screams of the Leviathan crew on that last doomed assault. I smell burning plastic and iron. But I'm alone. That's how the maw fights. Not with force, with familiarity. It uses you against yourself. I blink, and I'm on the bridge of the omen. No longer the pod. Everyone is alive. Ridger is laughing. Marn is flying. Even my father stands at the helm, smiling like I'm 10 again. "See, son," he says, "you don't have to do this." Everything feels right, warm, comfortable, but there's something wrong with the sound. It's too perfect. I draw my sidearm and fire straight into my father's head. The illusion shatters. The bridge peels away like skin, revealing the maw's true body, a twisting, endless spiral of mouths, eyes, and hands that vanish the moment you try to count them. It was trying to stop me. That means I'm close. The Requiem bomb begins to whine, not a mechanical sound, an emotional one. I feel it, deep in my chest, a vibration made from every child screaming in a collapsing bunker, every mother who died waiting for a husband that never came home, every soldier burned alive in vacuum. The pain is unbearable, and it's ours, humanity's. And we're going to shove it straight down the maw's throat. I reach the core. I don't know how I know it's the core. There's no marker, no beacon, no end. But I feel it. It's a place of pure stillness, a heartbeat waiting to stop, and something waits for me there, a figure, black, thin, not humanoid, not monstrous, just there, like a shadow of a god drawn by a dying child. It speaks without moving. You bring corruption. Your species is noise, chaos without end. You build, then burn. Why do you persist? I step forward. My voice cracks, but it's still mine. Because we remember. And you're going to remember us too. The figure extends a hand. Not a weapon. Not an attack. An offer. You do not need to die. Join the silence. Forget pain. Forget war. Forget yourself. I almost say yes. It's so tempting. No more nightmares, no more responsibility, no more faces I can't forget. Just quiet. But then I feel the bomb in my hands, and I remember what silence costs. I press the trigger. There's no explosion, no light, no fire, just memory. It pulses out of the Requiem core like a tidal wave, raw, unfiltered, ugly. Billions of lives flash through the maw's stillness. Children crying, lovers betraying, families breaking, soldiers dying alone in the dark, cities burning, planets collapsing, screams, So many screams. And then, the rage, the refusal to die, the part of humanity that spits blood and keeps crawling, that screams into the abyss and dares it to scream back. The maw trembles. Reality trembles. I see cracks forming in the void. The ghosts around me open their eyes. One by one, they begin to remember. The figure shrieks, not in sound, in code. Symbols I can't read fly past me like birds of flame. I feel the maw unraveling, not dying, but remembering. Every erased soul clawing back into existence through the pain. I scream too, not in terror, in defiance. You don't erase us! The maw folds inward. The light vanishes. The figure shatters into smoke. And then, everything goes white. I wake up to silence. True silence. Not the maw's silence, just quiet. The pod is floating, systems offline. I'm bleeding from my ears, nose, and mouth. My heartbeat is wrong, my vision's red. But I'm alive. I look out the cracked viewport. Stars, real ones. And Earth, small and blue, in the distance. I'm drifting toward home. Half dead, probably dying, but alive. And behind me? The maw is gone. Not defeated, but wounded. And somewhere in the quiet of space, I know it remembers our scream. They pulled me from the wreckage 2 days later. My body was half burned. Lungs filled with crystallized blood. Neural implants shot to hell. I had third-degree memory scarring. Some moments from my past playing on loop in my head like a broken hollow reel. The medics said I shouldn't have survived. But I did. That's humanity's secret weapon. We survive what we aren't supposed to. I woke up inside Vault Cradle 1, buried 50 kilometers beneath the old Andes. The emergency bed lights flickered, and the first face I saw was Ridger. Still bruised, still broken. One eye covered by a burn graft shield, the other red and wet. You look like hell, he muttered. I was in hell, I rasped, and I left something behind. He nodded. Yeah, we saw. The data feeds were flooding when I was cleared to stand. Across every deep vault, across every surviving satellite, Earth's sensors confirmed it. The maw was gone. Not destroyed. We weren't arrogant enough to believe that. But broken. The rift had sealed behind it. Space returned to normal. And the stars? They were speaking again. Waves of encrypted signals echoed across dead systems. AI clusters hidden in asteroids woke up. Abandoned colonies lit up with emergency broadcasts. Even deep alien beacons we hadn't heard in a century reactivated like they were coming up for air after drowning in black. The galaxy had been holding its breath. And now, they were finally exhaling. We weren't the only ones. 3 days after my return, the Telvanni made contact. A species we once called parasites, scavengers who looted our burned cities and labeled us extinct. Their envoy landed on the Arctic deck under heavy guard. The atmosphere had to be thickened to keep him alive. His body was mostly bone, wrapped in sinew and plated steel, with glass-like eyes that didn't blink. I come not to beg, the Telvanni said, but to learn. I stared at him from across the table, my voice still rough. You watched Earth burn. Now you come asking questions. He didn't blink. We thought you were noise, unrefined, dangerous. You were, but now you are worse. Worse? He nodded. You made the maw feel pain. That is not supposed to be possible. I leaned forward. And that scares you? No, he said. It gives us hope. It didn't stop with the Telvanni. The Vandrix sent a vessel next, half-rotted, battle-damaged, and armed with enough firepower to erase a moon. But they came under a banner of silence, a truce. Their war leader, a female named Thrax Annika, stood over 8 feet tall, her skin pale and scarred by ritual incisions. She met me face to face, placed her weapon on the table and said, You've bled more than anyone, so we follow you now. But if you run, we kill you first. I almost laughed. I respected that. Within 2 weeks, Earth became something it had never been. A rally point. Across the void, broken empires crawled toward us, ships carrying remnants of species that had gone dark decades ago. The sail from the cradle systems, thought extinct after the null's voice devoured their homeworld's frequency. The Iraq swarms, once conquerors, now reduced to 2 fleets and a shattered queen. Even the Zerai monks, a species that had never spoken aloud, sent a message etched in quantum stone. We have heard the scream. It echoes still. Earth has awakened the memory of war. We come with fire. But not all came in peace. The Zoral theocracy didn't send diplomats. They sent a bomb. On day 18, after the Maw's disappearance, a disguised freighter slipped past Earth's orbital shield and detonated a temporal stasis nuke just above the equator. The blast didn't kill. It froze a 60-mile stretch of Earth's surface, time locked to a single repeating second. Everyone inside that radius was trapped in a loop, including 14,000 civilians. When we realized what had happened, I ordered Retaliation Protocol Prime 6. The Leviathan crucible jumped to the Zoral homeworld, and it didn't ask questions. By the time it left orbit, nothing was left but a radioactive sphere spinning in ash. Humanity may have allies now, but we do not forget, and we do not forgive. The galaxy began organizing. We called it the Coalition of Flame, a unified war effort, not for territory, not for dominance, but for continuance. We learned something critical from the Maw's collapse. It isn't alone. The null exist beyond known space. The Maw, the Harvester, the Voice, they are only the front line. They didn't fall back because they were defeated. They fell back because they were recalculating. And this time, they'll come prepared. I was offered a seat on the Coalition Council. 12 species, 4 AI minds, 6 human representatives. I turned it down. I'm not a politician. I'm a soldier. Let the diplomats shuffle their papers and argue over who sits where. My place is with the fleet, with the screamers, with the ones who bleed. Instead, I was handed command of the new offensive fleet, Hellline Division. Not ships, weapons, vessels powered by thought pulse drives, black core memory chambers, each ship outfitted with a Requiem-class subcore, capable of injecting emotional noise into null frequencies. Our fleet isn't meant to survive. It's meant to hurt, to make them bleed again. To remind them, we scream. The first operation is simple. We jump beyond the Hadrek's curtain, a dead space once wiped clean by the Null's harvester 300 years ago. It's been untouched since. No comms, no signals, just void. We're sending in the screamers. I lead from the Omen, rebuilt from the bones of its last mission, reinforced with memory stabilizers and anti-echo hull shielding. I've walked through the Maw, and now I'm going back. Before we launch, I visit the surface. Earth's sky is blue again. The oceans move without fire. Children laugh. The ruins have been swept away, rebuilt, but no one forgets. There are statues now, of those we lost, of the fleets that never returned, of the Scream, the one that made the Maw blink. A boy walks up to me as I stand at the edge of the Pacific. He's maybe 10. Big eyes, dirty face, holds out a drawing, a ship, scribbled in black and red. "That yours?" he asks. I nod. "Something like that." "Are you going to kill the monsters?" I kneel down, take the drawing, and fold it carefully into my jacket. "No," I tell him. "We're going to teach them what monsters really are." The edge of known space is colder than death. No stars, no dust, not even darkness. Just a stillness that suffocates light, bends thought, and stretches time into a long, slow ache. We call it the end line, a place beyond the Hadrek's curtain where maps collapse and coordinates don't work. Ships vanish. Signals return scrambled. Even AI minds shut themselves down out of pure instinct. It's where the null were born. And now we're here. The Hellline fleet formed up in diamond formation, 5,000 warships engineered to not exist according to galactic physics. Screamers, Requiem core reactors, blacklight stealth shields, every hull coated in emotional reflective plating, trauma-coated steel that howls through frequency ranges as it moves. We aren't just flying weapons. We are weapons, and I am at the front, Commander Grant Teller, walking corpse, memory-scarred human relic who carried a bomb into a god's mouth and lived to tell the nightmare. They call me the last knife, and I like that, because knives don't ask permission. We passed through the end line on the 6th hour of silence. One moment, space looked normal. The next, every scope went blind, not from jamming, from non-existence. The null home isn't a place, it's a scar. Something ancient and violent that the universe itself never healed. A wound too deep for light to settle in, and within that scar, they wait. We saw them as we breached the veil, billions of them, not just harvesters, voices, or maws, new ones, worse ones, entities we didn't have names for, shapes that shifted depending on how you looked at them, machines that breathed, flesh that remembered, and floating at the very center, a structure, black, massive, the size of Jupiter, orbiting nothing. It pulsed like a heart. "Target acquired," Ridger said from the COCOM, voice steady. He was beside me again, patched up, one arm still a graft of cyber bone, eyes sharper than ever. "This is it," I replied. "The nest." That's what we called it. The null nest. Not a command center, not a factory. A mother. Every harvester, every maw, every voice. Born from that thing. It had no engines, no defenses we could detect. But it watched. And as we drew closer, it began to open. Not like doors. Like a mouth. "Deploy the screamers," I ordered. At once, hundreds of Hellline ships broke formation and dove. They didn't fire missiles. They played memories. Each ship emitted pulse waves made of humanity's most brutal, beautiful, and broken moments. Children sobbing in ruined hospitals, lovers whispering goodbye, soldiers screaming names as their blood froze in the black, families lost in bunkers, all of it, our pain, our proof. The nest shook, flesh bulged, light fractured. And then the null came. It wasn't a battle, it was annihilation. They descended on us in waves, not ships, but living thoughts made flesh. One of our fleets vanished in 4 seconds, just blinked out. No screams, no debris, nothing. Others twisted in the gravity noise, hulls folded into impossible geometry, trapped in quantum loops. Ships began firing at each other, not by error, but by command. The null don't fight you. They rewrite you. I switched to command link. "All vessels hold formation. Pulse scream cycles to max. Stay in your minds. Remember who the hell you are." The fleet pulled tighter. Screamers went nova. Some of our Requiem cores overloaded and took their ships with them, bright flashes of memory detonating in the void. And for the first time, the nest reacted. It screamed back. The sound didn't hit our ears. It hit our bones. Some of our crew died on the spot. Neural collapse from exposure to null echo. Others changed. One pilot carved a hole into his chest and whispered, "I'm not supposed to be remembered." We lost hundreds in the first minute. But we didn't run. Hellline Division wasn't built for survival. It was built to end. "Activate Omega Protocol," I said. Ridger flinched. "All of them?" "All of them." He swallowed, then gave the command. Every surviving ship in Hellline activated its Omega drive, Requiem-fused reactor cores that converted memory into explosive, reality-piercing force. We weren't going to fire them like weapons. We were going to fly them into the nest, one by one, until the mother burned. I go first, I said. You've done enough, Ridger snapped. Then let me finish it. He didn't argue after that. He just stood, saluted, and said, "Make sure they never forget." I clapped his shoulder, stepped into my pod, the last remaining screamer shell, and aimed for the core of the nest. I saw everything as I closed in. The nest opened wider, teeth made of cities, nerves of screaming moons. The null swarmed around me, but they didn't stop me. They wanted me inside. I understood why. They didn't believe I could do it again. They thought memory broke me last time. They didn't understand. I broke it first. I hit the core, slid into a crack between thought and matter, and I triggered Requiem Omega. It wasn't an explosion. It was a resurrection. All of Earth, its wars, its love, its music, its lies, its fire, poured out of me like flame. Every person we ever were, every sin we refused to forget, every voice we screamed into the dark. I saw them all. The children we failed, the soldiers we buried, the enemies we forgave, and the friends we didn't. And I gave all of it to the nest, not as a plea, but as a spear. The nest tore open, null minds screamed, whole fleets collapsed inward as the center of their reality fractured. The harbingers stopped. The maw didn't return. The null fractured. And for a moment that stretched into eternity. Humanity won. They found me floating in the aftermath. Alive, barely. They pulled me aboard the Omen 2, Ridger's new ship. He didn't speak for a while, just looked at me. "You did it," he whispered. "No," I said. "We did. It took years to clean up the remnants. The null didn't die, not entirely. But they retreated, broken, wounded, and afraid. Galaxies returned to life. Old empires rose, new ones were born. And Earth? We didn't rebuild. We remembered. A statue was raised in the Pacific Vault. My name's on it, alongside the thousands who didn't return. They say I'm a hero, but that's not true. I'm a scream, a voice that refused to die, a reminder that when the stars forget you, you make them remember with fire.